my little yarnivores and spiderettes and arachnids. Fiber Spider back again with another knitting tutorial for you. Yes, this is the Mosaic brick stitch. Yes, well, it's mosaic because that refers to the technique used, and it's the brick stitch because, well, it looks like bricks. There you go. Now, it looks complicated, but it's actually a lot more simple than you might think. The mosaic technique, I've done a couple of videos of this in the past, and I thought, why not, go and do yet another one? It's a lot of fun, and it is a lot easier than it looks. And yes, you are using two colors. It just so happens that I had colors that worked out perfectly for simulating bricks, and I thought, let's do it. So basically how mosaic knitting works is you knit 2 rows with one color, then 2 rows with the other color. So it's, 2 rows of A, 2 rows of B, 2 rows of A, back, forth, which is really nice because you can carry the yarn up the side of your piece. You don't have to keep cutting and sewing in ends, which you know is the bane of my existence, as I am sure it is with most of you. And you can create a really awesome piece. And the back of it, in my opinion, looks just as nice and neat and tidy as the front, which is a bonus. Of course, this is a scarf, but it is, I would say, more ideal of a technique for perhaps something that is just where you only see one side, like a hat or a blanket or a pair of mittens or what have you. But I love scarves this time of year. So that being said, let's get into some of the details. Now, this yarn actually was sent to me by one of my viewers, and I appreciate it oh so very much. Thank you, thank you. So actually, I've got my two skeins here. This is Lion Brand's Heartland yarn. And no, this video is not sponsored, but with the help of my subscribers sending me goodies, well, that certainly helps me do what I do. So Heartland, this stuff is soft. My gosh. Let me see here. Yes, it is 5 ounces, 251 yards, and it is 100% acrylic. Now, in spite of it being acrylic, oh my, it is very, very soft. Love it. And the colorway here is Yosemite. And the other one that I have here for the mortar color is Grand Canyon. And I love the sort of earthy, kind of heathery look to the colors. Absolutely gorgeous, and I thought really appropriate. So that being said, one more detail for this particular piece. Now, it's a matter of personal preference, I know. The needle size that they recommend is a size 9 or a 5.5 needle. Me, personally, well, I have a tendency of liking my things to be a little bit looser so that they flow better. So I personally am going to be using, if this will focus, thank you. Oh, I almost had it. There we go. I am using 10.5 size needles, and they are 6.5 millimeter. Now, of course, you can use whatever works best for you based on your gauge and your knitting style. Too tight, it has a tendency of being really stiff. Too loose, and you will lose the effect of the mosaic knitting. So, you know what? That being said, I think we'll get started. And anything else that I'm missing? I don't think so. I don't think I'm missing any other details. Yeah, so you know what? That being said, let's get started. Let's hop right in, and away we go. All right, I just remembered what it was that I forgot. It is an 8-row repeat. Now, in spite of that, which may be a little like intimidating. In spite of that, you only actually need to pay attention and think for two of those 8 rows, which really, again, makes this pattern very, very simple. And the other thing is that in spite of the fact that you have to really pay attention to 2 of those 8 rows, this is the kind of pattern where you can refer back to your previous rows and see, oh, this is what I need to do. So it's really not that bad. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to get a tail of yarn going on here, and we are going to start our cast on. Now, the number of stitches that you need for your cast on is a multiple of 4 plus an additional 2. Now, I've seen this stitch before, and some people do it differently. This is just how I do it. I'm not judging, I'm just saying this is how I do it. So I've got my slip knot on my needle, and we're going to do a multiple of 4 plus an additional 2. So you can make this as wide or as narrow as you want to. You know, if you want to do a whole blanket, hey, more power to you. So I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, right? So let me see, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, so that is my multiple of 4. Then I just need to add 2 more additional stitches on top of my multiple of 4. And there you go. Now, let me get myself situated. I'm working with circular needles. You can do this technique with straight needles, with circular needles. It really doesn't matter. So after casting on your multiple of 4 plus an additional 2, we have row 1. So for row 1, it is really quite simple. Just going to knit all of our stitches across. Now, when starting this, as you can see, I'm using the lighter color. This is going to be the mortar or the grout or the filler around the bricks. This is not actually the color of the bricks. So personally, I would say start off with your cast on and your first row of knit stitches with the grout color that you want to do. The next color, the brick color, is, well, we're going to be making the actual bricks. And we're going to be alternating back and forth. Now, the cast on, in this case, the cast on counts as a row, and this knit row counts as a row, technically speaking. And so for the next row, we are going to swap over to the brick color. So I'm just knitting. I mean, I'm not doing anything schmancy. I'm just knitting my way across. And then we're going to swap over to the brick. And there we go. All right, so we have ourselves a row of knit stitches. Alrighty. Alrighty, so row 2, we're going to start by getting our new color of yarn, the brick color. And now some people, they like to tie the new color onto the old color. Me, I just sort of scoot it into the back, and I will deal with that later. So push that into the back and then insert your needle and then grab your new yarn and loop it around your needle. And so for this row, the first couple of stitches are going to be a little bit fiddly because we're not anchored to anything, but just be patient. Okay, so for the first row of the bricks, we're going to start by knitting 3 stitches. So we've got 1, and also we need to sort of tug this. I'll show you what I mean. So we've got 1, and insert the needle for the next one, and I'm just going to tug the taupe, if you will. Just tug it a little bit. Okay. And then 2 more, because the bricks are, in this case, 3 wide. So you knit the first 3 stitches, and then, because the mortar goes up, we need to slip this next stitch. We're slipping it purlwise, not knitwise, but slipping it purlwise, and then knit the next 3. 1, 2, 3, slip purlwise, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, slip purlwise, and then just knit the last 2 stitches. There we are. And row 3 is going to be even a little bit easier because we have a groundwork to already have ourselves established with. So let's move on to row 3. All right, so for row 3, like I said, we already have a groundwork established. Now, the side facing us right now is the wrong side, so we need to accommodate for that when we're doing our slip stitches. For right now, these first 2 stitches are going to be knit stitches. You knit the color that you're currently working with, and you slip the opposing color. But because this is the wrong side, we need to slip with the yarn in back, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's knit these first 2 stitches. So knit and knit. Now, previously we slipped the yarn with we slipped the stitch with the yarn in the back, but we need it to be in the front. So bringing the yarn around to the front and then slip the stitch purlwise. And then bring the yarn to the back and then knit the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then again, bring the yarn to the front, slip that stitch purlwise, bring the yarn to the back. Because when you're knitting, the yarn is always at the back. Now, I'm going to show you real quick, carefully. There we go. The reason why we move the yarn to the front is because we don't want to cross over these slip stitches, these little bits of mortar. See, it's not going over what we've established there. That's why we bring it to the front when we slip on the wrong side. Okay, so moving right along, going to knit these next 3 stitches. My yarn is at the back. So knit, knit, and knit, yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, yarn to the back, and then knit the last 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now this last stitch, yeah, it's really loosey-goosey, but that's because it is a yarn tail there. All right, so that being said, that is the end of row 3. And you can already see that we have our bricks starting. Yes, indeed we do. All right, so let's move on to rows 4 and 5. All right, row 4. All right, now if you remember, I was saying that you only really need to pay attention to 2 of the rows out of the 8. One of them was when we did the first row of the bricks, and then the other one, well, we really didn't have to think about it because we were just following suit with what was already there. Now, the next 2 rows, rows 4 and 5, we don't have to think at all because we're just going to be using the mortar again. So what I like to do is I like to just take the brick color, scoot it to the back, and then we're going to bring up our mortar color. And we're just going to knit all the way across. Now again, you want to be careful about loose stitches on the edges. So what I like to do is I like to just sort of take the previous color and just give it a little bit of a tug. Not too tight, but a little bit of a tug, and it will make the edge a little bit neater. And then for the rest of the row, just knit your way across because it is a solid line of the grout color. Grout, mortar, filler, whatever you want to call it. It's not brick. That's definitely the case. It's not the brick. So you just knit your way across. And you don't have to think about it at all. There are a lot of mosaic knitting patterns that are very complex. And every row it's something new. But I wanted something that I could do relatively on autopilot, if you will. And that's why I chose this particular pattern. Okay, and then when you're done with row 4, you just turn your work, deal with your cable as needs be around your tripod if you have one. And then for row 5, you do the exact same thing that you did for row 4. Just knit your way across. It's really that easy. And then rows 6 and 7 will be back to the brick, but because the bricks are not aligned, they are staggered. We need to change up the number of stitches that we start with. That's not a big deal. We will totally get through it. But I just wanted you to be aware that there is a slight variation. That will be the second row in which we actually need to pay attention to what we're doing. Okay. And there you go. That's the end of row 5. So you can see where we had our slip stitches. That creates the vertical sort of mortar, if you will. But right now, we're not going to start off with 3 stitches. We need to change that up with the brick on top. Otherwise, it will be stacked right on top of each other. So let's move on to row 6. All right, so for row 6, again, we're going to be working with the brick and the mortar. We just sort of scoot it to the back and to the left. Now, I'm going to start by knitting the first stitch. Keep in mind, the bricks are 3 stitches wide, right? So we're going to need the vertical to be on the second stitch in order for the mortar to be aligned properly. So that being said, knit the first stitch with the brick, and then slip again purlwise the second stitch, and then we're going to knit the next 3 stitches. However, you do want to be careful and sort of cinch up your yarn just a little bit. So I've got my knit, my slip. Now I need 3 knit stitches. That's 1, 2, 3. Slip the next, purlwise. Knit the next 3. 1, 2, 3, and slip purlwise. And then because we have 4 at the end, if I knitted 3 and then slipped the last one, it would look wonky, okay? However, the difference between 3 and 4 in the grand scheme of things is not that major, so we're just going to knit the last 4. Alrighty. The pattern, in my opinion, the pattern is so busy that when you look at the scarf or the blanket or the what have you, it really does not strike you as being like, oh my God, that's obvious. So that being said, that is the end of row 6. All right, row 7. All we have to do is just follow suit with what we already have existing. Knit the stitches of the same color and slip the ones that are not, but with the yarn in the front. So let's knit the first 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring the yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, bring the yarn to the back. Knit the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Bring the yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, bring the yarn to the back. Knit the next 3. yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, yarn to the back, and knit the last stitch. Okay. And there you go. You've got 2 rows of bricks looking all nice and spiffy, and they are offset, which is exactly what we want. All right, so let's keep on going because you guys know I love to do repeats and so forth because I really want to make sure that you truly understand what it is that you need to do. So let's keep going. All right, so we're going to do the full repeat. And so like I said, the cast on counted as 1, and then we did another row of knitting and so on and so forth. So we're going to start from the very beginning of the 8-row repeat. So we've got row 1. And so, yeah, I'm just going to knit our way across. Now be sure that your brick color is to the back. And just knit your way across. And before you go any further, make sure that your tail, your opposing color, cinch it down just a little. Again, not too tight. Otherwise, that side, the right side of your piece, it will be bunched up. And the tension will be too much on that side, but you also don't want your edge to look sloppy either and unkempt. So just knit your way across with the mortar. There we go. Easy peasy. And then turn your work. For row 2. By the way, I get a lot of questions asking me what brand of counter this is. It is a Clover brand counter. I do. I get a lot of questions. I found mine at Michael's, and I figure I'll just answer that before somebody asks it. Sorry. And then so for row 2, you just knit your way back across. Nothing has changed. And also, if any of you are curious, these needles are also Clover. They are the Takumi Bamboo interchangeable set of knitting needles. Also, I found them at Michael's. They are not cheap, but if you have a 50% off coupon, I would strongly suggest them. They come with a wide variety of needle sizes and cord lengths, and I have not ever had any issue with them whatsoever. Just personal opinion and experience there. All right, so moving right along, we are almost done with row 2. Okay, very simple. All right, so let's move on to rows 3 and 4 to do the next series of bricks. Okay, row 3. Now, as I mentioned previously, this is one of those patterns where if you look at the existing work, you can see what it is that you need to do. So if we want to keep the bricks staggered, we're going to need to start by doing 3 of the brick stitches, then the mortar, just like we did down here. So get the mortar to the side and the back. And we're going to start by knitting 3 brick colored stitches. 1. And before I go any further, just tug it a little bit. 2 and 3. Slip as if to purl. 1, 2, 3. Slip as if to purl. 1, 2, 3. Slip as if to purl, and then knit the last 2 stitches. There you go. And that is the end of row 3. Okay, row 4, we're going to work our way back. So we're going to knit the bricks and slip the mortars. So knit the first 2. Just following suit with what we already have existing. Okay, yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, yarn to the back, knit the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, yarn to the back. Knit the next 3. Yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, yarn to the back, and knit the last 3 stitches. And there you go. That's the end of row 4. All right, so for rows 5 and 6, we're going to be on Easy Street. So again, make sure that your brick color is to the back and the left. Grab your mortar. And yeah, we're just going to knit our way across for the next 2 rows. So knit your first stitch, get your second one ready, and just sort of scoot that yarn down a little bit. And just knit your way across. And another really nice thing I would say about this particular pattern is you can really end it whenever you want to within just a few rows. For instance, if you feel that your piece is sufficiently big enough, after I'm done with this row, you could end it on the next row. I would strongly suggest to end it with mortar, and it would frame the piece rather nicely, I think. So, that being said, after doing this row right here, your next row could be conceivably a bind-off row. However, I'm not going to do that. Nope. I'm going to do row 6 because I want to show you rows 7 and 8 once again. So, row 6. See, it would be on this row that you would do your bind off because we did our cast on and one row, and then it would be one row and then your cast off if you were to be finishing at this point. But no, we're going to keep going. So I'm just going to knit our way across here. And I know I could be doing this off camera, but I like spending time with you, catching up, saying hello. So what are you guys doing this weekend aside from watching me at the moment? You know, what are you guys up to? The scarf of this particular pattern that I'm working on, I'm probably going to work more on it. Hopefully finish it this weekend. Would love to get it into my Etsy shop soon. We shall see. Maybe play some more video games. Catch up on some of my series. All right, so we're almost done with row 6, and then we'll do rows 7 and 8 for the completion of the repeat, and then I think you guys should be in good shape to keep going at your leisure. Alrighty, so there we go. See, if you did that last row that we just did with your bind off, it would look really nice and framed. And what I was saying before about the 4 stitches being kind of negligible, it's like, do you really notice the difference? I don't. I think it looks just fine. You know, you be the judge. You let me know. What do you think? All right, so let's go on to rows 7 and 8. Row 7. Make sure that your grout is at the back and the left. And actually, you know what? Let me just show you real quick how neat that edge looks. Love it. Okay. All right, so get my grout to the side. Okay, so now again, we did our 3 brick stitches at the beginning of the last sequence. So now we just need the 1. So all you have to do really is just look at your work and see where you were to find out where you're at. So knit the first stitch and then slip the second stitch. And then I'm going to knit the next 3, but before I do, just sort of cinch that a little. Okay, knit the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Slip the next, and then knit 3. And then slip, and then knit the last 4 stitches. And 2, 3, and 4. All right, and we'll wrap it up with row 8. All right, last but not least, row 8. So you guys know what to do. We're just going to follow suit by knitting the brick and slipping the grout. All right, so knit the first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring the yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, yarn to the back, knit the next 3. Yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, yarn to the back, knit the next 3. Yarn to the front, slip the next stitch, yarn to the back, and knit the last stitch. All right, so that is a complete repeat of rows 1 through 8. And so we've done 2 repeats altogether because this first 2 rows of bricks, excuse me, is 1 full repeat. And then these 2 rows of bricks is another full repeat. And again, whenever you are ready to finish your piece, I would do a regular row of the grout, and then your next row would be your cast off row. That is my personal suggestion to you. So from here on in, you would just keep doing rows 1 through 8 over and over and over as long as you want your piece to be. Yeah. And of course, you can do some really interesting color combinations. Something actually that I think would look really awesome, not for nothing, would be if one of these colors, just for argument's sake, you weren't wanting it to be quite so traditional. Okay, well, how about this? For your grout, perhaps, this sort of taupe color, instead of that, use maybe like black, okay? And then for your brick, do maybe an ombre, something that has a really neat color change to it. That would look pretty darn cool. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a very quick change variegated yarn. It would look way too busy. But if you had a solid color that did change over time, that would look really phenomenal. If you wanted to get really crazy, perhaps do 2 ombres. One is the grout, and then one is the brick. Play around, have fun. That's what I always say. So, also, of course, the timestamps will be in the description box down below. If you need them as a reference point, hey, that's what I'm here for. So, until next time, well, I have to start with something else first. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give a little thumbs up button down below. Subscribe for more, because you guys know I post as often as I can, whether it's knitting, crocheting, audiobook narration, my other YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games, where I do video game playthrough and commentary, my Teespring store, where you can purchase merchandise, show your support, my Etsy store, where you can buy things that I've actually made. There's so much down there in the description box. Check it out. Yes, and now, until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and stay safe. I love you guys. I will see you in my next video. And yeah, until next time, stay yarny, everybody. And toodaloo for now. Bye-bye.